this next story is triggering. I just want to give you the heads up because it involves Haitian asylum seekers. And we covered it earlier today at the top of the show. The U.S. just admitted a group of Russians at the border under a secret deal with Mexico. The brief summary of it is a group of Russian citizens who fled their country after the invasion of Ukraine and spent a week camped out at the U.S.-Mexico border was quietly admitted to the United States in a secret deal with Mexican officials, according to Vice News. 2 days before the Russians had received an offer from a Russian-speaking man who introduced himself as American diplomat, they would be taken across the border, but only if that group was broken up, et cetera, et cetera. I want to give you this paragraph in particular. The secret agreement brokered by the U.S. Consulate in Tijuana and executed in conjunction with Mexican officials at the border and state levels bypassed Title 42, the controversial pandemic-era measure that allows U.S. border authorities to expel or deny entry to asylum seekers without hearing their claims. The hypocrisy is staggering. Let's play that clip.
This month, dozens of Russians arrived at the U.S.-Mexico border seeking asylum. Nearly all of them fled political repression related to the war. They're either active in the anti-war opposition or have connections to Ukraine. U.S. border authorities turned them away, but they refused to leave and formed an encampment just on the Mexico side of the border crossing. Customs and Border Protection turned the Russians away under Title 42, the pandemic-era rule that allows the immediate expulsion of asylum seekers without hearing their claims. The U.S. has cited Title 42 almost 2 million times to expel migrants mostly from Mexico, Central America, and Haiti. But in the last 2 weeks, CBP began making systematic exceptions to allow in Ukrainians fleeing the war. At first, that exception didn't extend to Russians, but while we were at the encampment, that began to change. The Russians were told not to speak to the press, but they were skeptical of the backdoor deal and shared the location of the hotel they were taken to. We waited there to see if they would, in fact, be moved to the border. They were taken to a border checkpoint that's currently closed to the public, where nobody would see them cross. We know now that a few of the families that were allowed to cross the border as part of this surreptitious deal have now been released into the custody of some nonprofits on the San Diego side. They will be allowed into the United States where they'll be able to sort of live and move freely while their asylum claims move forward. It's hard to overstate how unusual and irregular this deal that we witnessed was. And I think the clearest evidence of that is the fact that nobody's admitting to it. The sort of public and political furor around Title 42 is coming to a head, largely as a result of the arrival of these Ukrainian and now Russian refugees. There are tens of thousands of migrants on the Mexico side of the border waiting for the chance to claim asylum. Most of them are black and brown people from the global south, places like Central America, Mexico, Haiti, Cameroon, other parts of Africa, South Asia. Those people are watching what's happening, these sort of special exemptions being made for white refugees from Europe and saying, what's happening here? A lot of people expect that something is going to change with the policy in the next week or so. So the date to pay attention to is on April 1st, the CDC has to decide whether to extend or rescind Title 42.
We're back.
So, again, it's quite astounding, right? Back in September, we had thousands of Haitians under the Texas-Mexico border under a bridge. And so many people argued down that there was due process. And Joe Biden, who was the president that told the Haitian people before being seated back in, I believe it was 2019, November, that if he became president, he would be a voice for the Haitian immigrants, right? And he would have to help out the, or not the Haitian immigrants, because these people weren't trying to come to the U.S. He said he would partner with Haiti and their leadership so that the Haitian people could have a voice and they can figure out what to do to assist with Haiti. So even people in Haiti who could not vote were hoping and wishing that Joe Biden became president, especially because the following year we have Donald Trump, who signed Title 42 into law, preventing immigrants from coming here. And we were already dealing with that. And he was like, because of COVID-19, right? He made that the reason. So they signed that into law for, asylum seekers, immigrants, all these people who were trying to come over, during the whole pandemic. He said, hell nah, we have a whole pandemic going on. Joe Biden said he would not do things, that Donald Trump did, especially to asylum seekers, migrants, what they call them, undocumented folks, all kinds of names, but he wouldn't do that to them. Fast forward to September, right? Last year. We had all those people, mostly Haitian immigrants, under that bridge at the Texas-Mexico border, and they were treated like trash. And mind you, this is something that is pretty much normal with Haitian immigrants or Haitian migrants here. But in the time of a pandemic, when their president was just assassinated, they were dealing with inclement weather. They had the earthquake, and they had also a following hurricane hit them. This was all happening literally back to back. They were seeking asylum. They imagine having such a hard time where you are, willing to go through Brazil, go through Mexico in the most scariest, dangerous parts of it, running into gangs, some people not making it on the way. Some people having children on the way. No food, no change of clothes, nothing. Finally, to get somewhere where they can have a taste of freedom, potentially for their children, for themselves, because where they are is just too hard. Right? War is happening, all of that. This is the same thing. Joe Biden said, hell nah. I saw, what's her name? Jen Psaki get up there and said, there's due process in Title 42. It doesn't allow them to stay. We're going to send them back, but they'll be sent back. We'll have conversations with some of them. We'll try to figure it out. But Title 42 does prevent that. Title 42 was in place because we have COVID precautions. Where did COVID disappear? Did COVID disappear? Because all of a sudden, we've seen this before with other immigrants, and then now having to see the same thing that's going on. It's a war happening. And I'm not saying that those people should not be protected. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's funny how when the skin is white, it's a different treatment.
Come on.
And seeing that Title 42, they're willing to push it to the side now. They're willing to have conversations. They're willing to revise. They're willing to make accommodations for when they were whipping Haitians at the border. They were chasing them on horses. Okay? I told you guys, I say this about my personal experience. Me having to call in everywhere to try to find my cousin and figure out what's going on with him. Me trying to coach him through what to say, and him saying all the right things and still being sent back in the middle of the night. So I'm not trying to knock or not trying to say that these people don't deserve protection, but what about, yeah, I'm gonna say what about them Haitians? What about black immigrants? What is the difference? Why do they not deserve grace? Why is this time and time again, America makes it so difficult when the skin is darker, when the skin happens to be black folks from a black country, so difficult for them. Why is that? What is the reason?
Well, Queen, if you don't mind, I want to speak specifically to America. See, you tried to co-opt Dr. Well, you're not. You're doing a pretty good job of co-opting Dr. King. 1963, you always want to go back to that speech. Let's not, I look forward to the day when you don't judge my children by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Well, when our Haitian brothers and sisters tried to come in, you didn't judge them by the content of their character. You look specifically at the color of their skin. Now, when these Russians, when these white folks came in, you didn't judge them by the content of their character. Your sympathy was based on the color of their skin. In the Olympics, when the little white girl was thought to be maybe, coming from a country that used performance enhancement drugs. sympathy was rendered down on her, not because of the content of her character, but because of the color of her skin. So there is no need to ask why, America. We don't have to go back to 1963. Right here, alive today, we have seen that the color of the skin, the fact that you invented race, America, you made the whole deck of cards, race cards. And when we point it out, you now want to look at us and say, why do you always have to talk about race? Because mofos, that's all you have done for 400 years. And now today, I am looking at yet another example of the sickness that has permeated your soul still exists. You don't look at me because of the content of my character. Mofos, you look at me, my folks, because of the color of our skin. And we don't give a damn about what you think about this narrative, like it
or not.
Say that.
I said it.
You said it. He said what he said.
He said what he said.
He said what he said.
I said what I said.
My God.
Said what I said. And Dr. Mack, I love that you put it that way. And it's like, if they ain't gonna hear nothing else, they're gonna hear it from Dr. King. They're gonna quote him, right? They're gonna utilize, his words. Every damn month, every time something happens, they're gonna say, we can't judge y'all by but not by the color of your skin, but the content of your character. But sweetie, wait, what about now? What about in this particular moment? What about this? What do you have to say right now?
Bring Dr. King up right now. Resurrect him. Little baby Jesus, bring him back right
Please. Because I would love, they know him so well. They know him better than black folks. They only know him from that one part, and they know him he's a good black man. He's a good black man, but you guys haven't even studied him enough to understand exactly what he's talking about. You guys will preach him, utilize him in your words when you want to talk about you not being a racist, yet you don't understand exactly what he was saying. Read the rest of it. Go figure out who he was.
But Queen, what we have to do is every time black folks come into this country, we need to say to America, I need you to be judging them by the content of their character right now. Make your decision based on the content of their character. No, not because of the color of their skin. So every time our situation comes up, it's time for us to get off the defense and let's go to the offense. You want to co-opt King America, which you always done. Right now, I want to put every one of you right now on the hot seat, America, and ask the question. See, they weren't Russians. That ain't what the Queen sees. The Queen don't see Russians. The Queen see white folks coming in. See, the Queen didn't see Haitians coming in. The Queen saw black folk coming in. That's why you got my Queen so upset. So, Queen, why don't you take a sit down and let me, Bubba, and Brother Ben, let us go out there and do your bidding, Queen. We got this situation, baby.
We got it.
It's crazy because I didn't only see black folk coming in, I saw my family coming in. So it's personal. It's personal as hell for me. And I always, people always ask me, you're black and you're Haitian. I remember when the whole thing was going on, they were like, well, how do you feel about what's going on? Well, let me tell you something. How do you feel about what's going on? I mean, you're a white woman. You're asking me how I feel about what's going on. How do you feel about what's going on? Do you think that, Title 42 and what they're doing and putting up all of these difficult ways for these people to even come and stay? And then in the middle of the night, while everybody is trying to send money and figure out where these people are located in the middle of Texas so that they can take them, claim them as their own so they can have some safe place to stay. What are you thinking about that? Do you think that and I had to ask the woman, do you think that there is, they're making it harder for them because they're Haitian? Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, there's due process. We have to talk about that. There's ways that they have to go through. We can't just, if we let them in, we're going to let everyone in. And we shouldn't just do it like that. I know they're going through a hard time, but okay. And I would love to ask that same woman right now, well, what do you think about what's going on with that? What do you think about how the treatment of the Russians and the Ukrainians, how, them coming in and getting the red carpet laid out for them? Where's the due process there? Now they're talking about revising Title 42, doing away with it, Can we go back and get all them Haitians that y'all sent off in the middle of the night back to areas that they weren't even from in Haiti? Can we go and get them? And they benefit from Title 42 possibly being removed for the safety of people who are in the middle of war?
But Queen, the other point that you made that is so incredibly powerful is that even if they try to use the war as a reason to excuse Title 42, all the things that you listed about what was going on in Haiti at the time that our family was trying to come here, the assassination of the president, the catastrophic events of Mother Nature, all the things that had befallen our brothers and sisters. Now, all of a sudden, you can't be sympathetic. Well, trust and believe, even though you did this in the middle of the night, King was still watching down. He was saying to you, judging by the content, let them in because of the content of their character. But you couldn't hear that. You couldn't hear that when it came in the daylight. You couldn't hear Dr. King when it came to our brothers and sisters. But in the cloak of darkness, when King should have been asleep in heaven, you woke him up. You woke him up and said, King, we're going to let him in. Because we're going to let him in.
I love Brother Marcus. Listen. Go ahead, Rebecca.
No. What can we say? The 2 points that we've made that are simple, that have been said and asked in the middle of press conferences at the White House, it just wraps up this whole thing and it makes it look, this is the hypocrisy. That's just where it's at. This is where they don't have any excuse for, but they can send Jen Psaki out there just to say that we have to go by due process. The president is doing what he thinks is best for the country. We don't want more of a pandemic and potential spread of COVID-19. Where are those talking points when in the next press conference that's about to happen in 5 minutes or the next hour or whatever when they're talking about bringing these damn people in? Where are those talking points? And the points that we're making right now are very simple because it is what it is. This is exactly what we're not adding to it. We're not subtracting from what happened. We are telling you what you did and why. We're asking you what is the difference between September and we're asking what's the difference between today. These people, the only difference that I see is the skin color. That's it.
Say it.
Yeah. So anyway, child, it pisses me off. It makes me angry, but I feel like all I can do is continue to keep pointing it out. And if ever presented in some situations like I was on the Hill having this conversation and having to let them know what Title 42 does, I don't care where I am, where I'm at. It would be, I would be doing a disservice as a black woman, as a black person, as a person with 2 damn Haitian immigrant parents, with a cousin who was one of them people underneath the damn bridge, not to say nothing about this. It's not only that I'm emotional about it because, it's personal to me. But at the same time, if I live in a country that literally constantly claims, white folks keep claiming that. White folks in position, our own damn president, keep claiming that they are for the people and they want to make sure everyone is safe and all this other stuff. But situations come up and you're always showing us the opposite, that you are choosing people because of their skin color. You're choosing to assist people and give them help, give them housing, give them loans, helping people live because of their skin color. That's problematic for me.